Right, I just want to make a short video about my experience with my newly acquired 8-track. I bought this tape quite a few years ago because I kind of remember them from my youth and thought it'd be quite cool one day to get an 8-track. So maybe if I had a tape, it might encourage me to get a player. And a few weeks ago, I did. I got this player, a BSR McDonald. Just to give a slight overview, the 8-track is a tape-based system. There's the tape there, and the tape is in a continuous loop. So it comes around here, goes onto the outside of a spool, goes into the centre where it is pulled off the spool again, and then goes around and through. The only thing that makes the tape move is the pinch roller. So basically you've got a capstan which in the player is connected to this big metal wheel, and there's a pin that goes down, and that pin then gets sandwiched between the tape gets sandwiched between the pinch roller, which is that black roller, and the capstan, which is a metal pin. Metal pin spins around, the tape gets pulled through, and hey presto. If you imagine that the tape's getting pulled off the biddle and going on the outside, you will realise that it's getting pulled onto the spool a lot faster than it gets pulled out. And one of the slight issues with 8-track is that in order to allow the tape to progressively spool into the middle, it actually has to slip over itself, and therefore the back of the tape actually has to be coated in a sort of a graphite material to make it slippy, which can then come off and affect the sound quality. But the sound quality is not good anyway. It's called 8-track because the tape is split into 8 lanes of musical data, if you like. But although it is called 8-track, you can only actually access 4 programs, as they call them, because it's stereo. So there's 2 channels per stereo, 4 programs. 4 times 2 is 8 tracks. It's a bit of a weird terminology. So anyway, I've got the cartridge, and then went and got this tape player. Well, this tape player is a sort of a standalone home-based unit. Runs on 240 volt mains. The power comes in. There's a switch which is activated when you put the tape in. Powers the thing up. This motor kicks in and turns, like I say, this wheel here, which then just turns the capstan, and that is basically, in terms of tape movement, the entirety of the mechanism. However, what gets more complicated with it is, okay, so this is how it changes tracks. Basically, this solenoid gets kicked in, which lifts up like that, and then when it releases back down again, it turns that wheel by 1/8 of a turn, which in turn moves a cam. You see the cam getting higher and lower, which in turn lifts and moves the head up and down. As it moves up and down, it is now the heads are in contact with a different pair of tracks, and that's how you get your programs. There's a little switch on the bottom here which aligns as well. That doesn't do anything with the audio. It just literally selects one of 4 light bulbs on the front, which I can hopefully demonstrate now. Okay, can you see the number 1 there? There we go. Yeah. And then when it changes track, so basically this is the track selector, and when I press this, it'll activate that solenoid and it will go to the next track, or the next program, sorry. Okay? In addition to pushing this button, there's another way it can change tracks, and that is that if you were to look inside the where the tape sits, if you look on the right hand side first of all. That thing in the middle, that's the capstan that actually pulls the tape through, and that's the spinning pin which is connected to that big wheel at the top. If we go left, you'll then see in the middle now the head, which goes up and down, and I have to suggest that at this point it's at its highest position. But then on the left hand side you'll see two pins, and these are electrical pins, and these are basically two contacts of a switch. And although you can't see it now, what they do is they fix a little bit of sort of tin foil in the tape, and then as the tape comes through, the tin foil shorts out the pins. Oh, you see a better view of the pins there probably. There we are. Shorts out these two contacts, which is exactly the same as pushing the button and next track. So basically this happens one spool round, so the tape will go around. When it gets to the end, it'll hit this little bit of tin foil, jump down to the next track, and now it'll play the next track. Play the next track through, the tape will come to an end, it'll go to the third track, the fourth track, and then back to the one, and it'll keep going continuously. Now, if you imagine an album which is, in this particular case, if you look at track 1, you'll see that you've got one song there, two songs there, three songs there, but it says part 1, and then when you look at it, track 2, you'll see that it says the same song but part 2, and then a fourth song, and then a fifth song. So what ABBA have done here is that they've written, produced an album which contains 10 tracks. Now if you split your 10 tracks between 4 programs, well, that's an uneven number. Now what you might have thought they would have done is something like, I don't know, putting tracks 1, 2 and 3 on a program, and then 4 and 5 on another program, but then you might have had a gap. The gap might have been the length of a song. Rather than putting a bonus song on or a B-side or something like that, what they've actually decided to do is to split the 5 songs and put this gap, this jump in between in the song, so they can go from program 1 to program 2. And if you're thinking that that's just a little pause, boy, are you wrong. Let's see if we can listen to this. Now, for very obvious reasons, I can't actually play you the song, but I'm hoping to give you enough information just to appreciate just how bad this was. So it's about to, as you can see, I need to buy a new belt for it. It's supposed to have a flat belt, but I had to just put this little belt on. I'll explain in a second, you know, what happened with the belt. Right, so there we go. So in the middle of the second verse, there's silence. Right, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, 1012, 1013, 1014, 1015, 1016, 1017, 1018, 1019, 1020, 1021, 1022, 1023, 1024, and there's the song coming back. So there's this huge quiet gap in the middle of the song, and I just can't believe that anybody thought that was a good idea. It's crazy. Right, so just to recap about this belt business, when I got it, it wasn't working, and what happened was the belt had turned to gungy licorice. If you look at this here, and it's still sticky now, that is the old belt, and basically the belt was obviously on the thing, and when it's just degraded and turned to liquid, and it's just dropped and fell wherever it landed, and it's landed there and it's stuck on there. You can probably see where it was stuck on the it's still a bit sticky, it's very sticky, around the bottom of the pulley wheel there. It was stuck around obviously half of this big wheel here, but I managed to clean it up and scrape most of it off. I left it there, and I mean, you see it just wherever it landed basically. I just put this belt on temporarily, just to get it working, but it does need the proper belt. With this thin belt on, it's suffering from a lot of wow and flutter, which I'm hoping that, or wow and flutter, isn't it? That I can hope that'll be somewhat minimised by having the proper belt on. But the fact is, this system's never going to sound good. I looked at the specs, and the frequency range only went up to 10,000 hertz, which is a long way from being high fidelity. And when you take into consideration as well the poor transport of the tape, you know what I mean, and the stress and strain that's on it, and it's just a truly awful system that really did deserve to die, as far as I can see. And you can see how mechanically heavy and complex it was. There's an awful lot of metalwork in there. There's a little amplifier board in there as well, preamp, which I think on this particular example might be faulty. I think it might need the capacitors changing out because it's very, very quiet. I'm going to have to put on a scope and find out what the output is, but I'd be surprised if it's about a tenth of what it's supposed to be. But that's for another day. So there you go, my little BSR 8-track player. It is rubbish, but as a curiosity, I think it's quite enjoyable to look at and play around with, if not to actually listen to music on.